engaged conversations. Especially exciting is to see how bullish African governments and actually also African industry is in terms of driving, innovating, and supporting entrepreneurs and technology in the different countries. And you really see a lot of companies popping up. I've spoken to many very exciting startups with their technologies. You see how the governments embrace these and want to help them. And the nascent incubators and accelerators all throughout Africa. It's a very exciting time where technology is probably in a historical moment where technology leapfrogs the whole opportunity, business opportunities in Africa.
Yeah, and we've also seen that you just signed an MOU with the Smart Africa. Could you share more details on that?
Yes, a very exciting one. We are very honored and pleased to have been selected by Smart Africa as an asset manager to create a first of its kind Pan-African tech, very early stage investment fund, which is also an impact fund. So we will not only look at the building and supporting the future Pan-African champions, but also to see what that means for the population, for the country. We really measure what the outcome of the companies are. And it's very exciting because we have, for the first time, actually African governments. For example, we announced already Togo has initiated, was the first one to come in and seed a fund with a non-for-profit capital. And then we raise private capital on top. And this permits that the returns of the expectation of the private investors are adjusted and we can go really early, seed stage. So that's very exciting with that program, and we're really collaborating with the whole strategy, vision, member states, local ecosystems in that way to invest in companies and help them grow and build.
Yeah, so as you've mentioned, Togo is already on board and you'll be working with the Smart Africa member countries.
Yes.
Yeah, I think those are around 24 countries.
Yes.
Yeah, so should we expect the rollout plan? You know, as you say, Togo is on board, so when should we expect the other countries to also?
I mean, this is all nascent. The fund doesn't exist yet. We are creating it. So it's all in the build. It's one of the important pillars of Smart Africa to basically being able to provide capital very early stage to startups, which is the tough part, you know, the so-called death valley for a company because you cannot find capital. You know, you have Silicon Valley models and venture capital, but you cannot apply them here. It's different. So this is one part, and you can see the excitement. We believe all the conversations we have here with different member states, with the ICT ministers and so on, they embrace the initiative of Africa seeding its own fund, being catalytic, the governments, to really foster and support the future African champions. And this goes throughout, so yes. And regarding your question, we believe and we hope that as many member states and other partners, and also private, because public-private, will join the fund, will support it, either with a catalytic interest from a government state, or with a strategic interest from an ecosystem like industry, corporations, or from a financial interest in order to capture value and see these nascent startups as a possible candidates to invest much more in the future.
Yeah, and as you said, investment is one of the most challenging. You know, it's always the elephant in the room. And we've also seen that here in Africa, there's some sectors that are already moving towards digitalization, while
yes.
there are some other sectors which are still left behind, like agriculture, education. So when it comes to the selection process, will you try to give more emphasis on certain sectors, or how will the selection be?
So we've been active over a decade, investing in commercial companies benefiting the low-income population in emerging markets. So it's access to money, financial inclusion, much more fintech now, access to energy, really clean tech, access to healthcare, health tech now, access to productivity, so it's agriculture, but not only agriculture. And we have different partnerships with the United Nations, different ones with the World Bank on different funds. Now this one is a specific exciting one because it's a tech one, so it's really leapfrogging technology. And there we see the same possibilities in business models. So once we are heavily invested in off-grid energy in Africa, So with companies who are electrifying households, not only electricity, but really it's a financing model, and at the same time internet access. And once they have internet access, then you can start really doing, you know, IoT businesses. It goes both ways. So we are deeply investing now into smart villages, smart homes. Yeah. So there is not one sector. We see it as an ecosystem approach, where basically at the end the population will benefit because you increase wealth, you create the future SMEs, you know, and you leverage technology at a price point which is affordable to everybody. Yeah. So from a productivity point of view, Africa to the world, but also from a local wealth generation and also local technology and innovation generation. So to collaborate with incubators, with different universities, with accelerators, with different public and private partner programs. So it's a very exciting time in Africa, and we really see that as a new endeavor of a new fund which is structured in a way to go really early, where there usually, you know, capital is not available. And then others can follow, where you have all different parties going into the same vehicle on the same theory of change, of building out early stage and finding the African heroes, yes, you know, the entrepreneurs, yes, to build upon.
Yes. Now, as you mentioned, you'll be working with startups. Now, in most African countries, we have skill gap. You know, we have young people who have brilliant ideas, but then the incubators, not many countries have incubators, you know, to give these young people time to learn and also learn from the mistakes and know what to do. So will you work with African governments in finding solutions around that in the skill gap area?
Absolutely. I mean, as African governments come into the fund, you know, and will collaborate with the fund, there's a clear strategy of these governments, what has to happen in their country. So, but we see nascent incubators and accelerators, and we want to foster them. So there's a clear interaction between the government in terms of being catalytic, you know, and really having a legacy for its population, and then sectors and technology to build, and also industry and corporations to follow. So this is a joint endeavor. Our specialty is, of course, is to structure investments for profit. So not as a philanthropy part, not to give grants. Go at risk, go into the company, back the entrepreneurs, work with the entrepreneurs, and help them to build out their